Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room, the show that focuses on issues on Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada, the wide world. And I'm Robin Adair. Across town in Saanich, in his Saanich lair, is my co-host, the Croatian sensation himself, John Jurisic.
Robin Sretan Božić, which is Merry Christmas in Croatian.
Because we're not afraid to say Merry Christmas on this show, are we, John?
Well, we certainly are not, and very proud to emphasize Merry Christmas, because, you know, Robin, it kind of isn't. There's a bit of a Grinch going on, and its name is Omicron.
No kidding.
And,
no kidding.
Wow.
This has been a really, really tough time for the world. And COVID-19, it's been going on for nearly 2 years. We moved towards this holiday season, I think, with some optimism that things would be sort of back to normal.
Right.
Business was up. People are buying their presents. People are looking at traveling to places. We've already had people going to warm places and coming back with suntans. And you feel like, wow, things are really picking up. And then we get the Omicron variant, which is much more contagious and is moving so rapidly through the population that we are now hitting new records on a daily basis right here in British Columbia. And it looks like travel is going to be affected for sure. And more immediately, what we have heard from Dr. Bonnie Henry, she is saying everyone now can expect to be exposed to the Omicron variant and COVID-19 at some point.
So I get this is wave number, what are we at, 82?
Wave number
72,000?
Wave number five.
And it's the same protocols, okay? They're ultimately nothing new, except that people need to get vaccinated and they need to get their booster shots. What is feeling new is just this overwhelming sense of dread and despair. That is what I think is going to hit our population again.
But you know what really I think should be hitting the population is the realization, if you've had your double vaccination, even if you get Omicron, you'll be okay. If you've got your booster, you'll be really okay. You may get exposed, but if you've had your vaccination, you're going to be okay. It's going to be mild. It's going to be flu-like. You're going to feel lousy for a couple of days. You're not going to be in the hospital. You're not going to be on a respirator. You're not going to die. But if you don't get vaccinated, all of that's off the table, John. And people need to wake up. It's time to get vaccinated. What's the hesitation about?
Well, that actually makes me feel better. We should really publicize what you just said. That makes me feel better. Thank you. What does it mean, these announcements over the last day or two, regulation-wise? Well, for starters, no Christmas gatherings bigger than one's family. Guests, that adds up to roughly 10 people at one time.
Well, you can have some people from outside, but you can't have more than 10 people, and they all have to be people that you really know well, sort of your bubble people.
And that's not entirely too different than what was implemented or said. Right. But an adjustment nonetheless. All New Year's parties are canceled. Okay, doesn't impact me totally, but certainly that will impact younger folks. Large holiday parties are canceled. Sporting events can only host crowds at 50% capacity.
I think that these are all things that are reasonable. And I think over the short term, it's only till mid-January, then they're going to relook at how things have gone. It's my feeling, John, that we are moving to a stage now where if you are taking precautions, you can get through this. We can get through this. And why people wouldn't be at this point waking up that it's time to get their COVID-19 vaccinations is totally beyond me. And, as for travel, we were going to go away this winter. We were going to go on a nice vacation with some great friends from the United States we really care about. And we pulled the plug before the Omicron came on because we were feeling nervous about just the the signs weren't good. We felt all the regulations to get through, all the testing back and forth, the uncertainty of what we would be heading towards. And we just said, no, we can't do this. And now, of course, Omicron's hit. And I think you're going to see, I understand some countries have already shut their borders. I hear Spain has shut its borders to travelers. Other countries will follow suit. We're in the middle of a muddle here. And so I really encourage people to take a long, hard look at how they are behaving around the holidays. Don't overexpose yourself. Make sure you stay with family, enjoy the holidays, but do it safely. And in the meantime, speaking of the holidays, let's not forget one of the other great purposes of these holidays is to think about and care about others, especially people who are in a tough place, the disadvantaged. That is another one of the important Christmas themes that can't be lost in the middle of this, John.
In fact, Robin, that is probably the Christmas message. How do we look after, how do we care about our less disadvantaged folks? And therefore important to give money, anything that you can to the charities and agencies that do help the poor and the disadvantaged. One place that I always make a donation that's very visible to the community is the Salvation Army, which does so much work year round, but greatly depends on the contributions leading up to Christmas. Joining us to talk more about the Salvation Army is Patricia Mamic. Let's zoom her in.
And now joining us for the first time in the Victoria Rumble Room is Patricia Mamic, who is the Director of Public and Government Affairs for the Salvation Army. Patricia, it's so great to have you on the show.
It is great to be here, Robin. Thank you for having me.
And
where's
I don't know if you recognize my co-host. Do you recognize my co-host here?
I don't know where John is today.
Who's
that?
This is now it's time for a reveal.
It's time for the great reveal. Santa. And I'm going to go
do the reveal, Santa.
I'm going to go behind my reindeers and all my little snow hut. So just a moment while I see where John is.
Oh my God! Well, that's a nice picture of John Jurisic. I wonder who Santa really is.
Oh. There he is. There's John.
Santa Claus.
What a great way to start the show.
John Jurisic. John, you take it away from here. This is great.
Well, that was fun to see Santa, and of course I am a Santa helper. But Trish, so great to see you. We've known each other now for a while. Man, that's great. And I've known your husband Dennis, and we share some Croatian roots. I of course brand myself as the Croatian sensation, but I think it's truly Dennis. But anyway, we've shared amazing dinners up at the Catholic Church up on Gordon Head. But today we're going to talk about the Salvation Army and your role with the Salvation Army. And what I am particularly interested in is how, for just normal people and people that are not disadvantaged, it's tough. This has been a tough 2 years. And lots of issues around jobs and mental health and relationships.
Well, first of all, we have experienced a year like we have never seen before. The increase in needs has gone to some of our communities in BC up to 200%. We're seeing an increase. We may be seeing more people coming through who are not typically those in need. But the thing is, we don't discriminate. It doesn't matter what you're wearing, what car you're driving. We had one fellow come in and he was apologizing for food. He came in for food. He was apologizing about the car he was driving. We're kind of wondering, we don't look at cars people drive when they come for help. And but it wasn't because his car was old jalopy. It was because it was a nice car. He was driving a nice car. He had lost his job. He had 5 kids, a single dad, 5 kids to feed. And they needed food on the table. And so he came to us, and it's like, absolutely open doors, like no questions. You need some help. That's what we're there for. We don't look at situations. Everybody's got different situations, but this pandemic has really hit a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And we're definitely seeing that increase in need. We have a spiritual aspect, we have a physical aspect, we have all these different aspects. So Salvation Army, so many people think the Salvation Army is just a thrift store. and I still get that, and I'll say, oh yeah, I shop at your store all the time. And it's like, there's so much more. And people don't know about that. And I could go on and on and on, even about one program, let alone all the things that we do, whether it's kids or for addictions or single moms or dads or immigrants. And there's so many stories. And, we're in 56 communities, 52 communities across BC. And they're putting us out at every one of those for those communities, rural, city core, all over the place. So there's just so much happening with the Salvation Army. They're just an amazing organization, and they got a lot of trust. A lot of trust, and a lot of people who really believe in what they do. So.
This is the time of the year we see the kettles all over the city. We know the Salvation Army is doing this good work. Sometimes it's the only time of the year people are really conscious of the work the Salvation Army does year round. But this is a time where people often give. How's the pandemic affected that? Are people giving as much? Are they giving less? Is it when people universally have been up against it, how are they feeling about supporting people that are, facing these hard times?
Yeah, that's a great question, Robin. And the people in Victoria are so generous. They're so amazing. We couldn't do what we do without those donations. We're the conduit. We have the privilege of receiving these donations from the public and putting it where it needs to go in the community. So people trust us with those funds, and we are privileged, and we take it very seriously, the funds we get. When the need increased initially with the pandemic, so did the supply decrease. The stores were bare. We all remember that time. So those foods and those donations from the stores we were getting were not coming in. And so it could have been a time of crisis. But right off the bat, the Times columnist Dave Obey, the Joel family, and the Victoria Foundation came through the Rapid Relief Fund. And right out of the gates, they were asking the community, could they give? Could they put something towards this? And they were very generous to us and very good to us. And that really got us through and helped us through that first big chunk.
How are things now?
Yeah, we've stabilized, of course. We've always had the doors open. We've always had food for people and services for people. Right now, with this kettle campaign that you mentioned, this is our biggest fundraiser of the year. As far as the generosity goes, Victoria has always come through for us. Year after year, Christmas time rolls around, we ask, they give. But this year, the need is greater, and so the ask is greater. It's a bigger ask. We're saying, dig in if you can. We've got the taps now on the kettles, which makes it really easy for people. The tap 5, 10, 20. You hear that little ding? You've done it. You want to hear 2 dings? They've given twice. So a lot of people, because traditionally it's been kind of fun for people to come and put some money in the kettle, drop, the parents give the kids a loony, a toonie, they come in and, get a bit of joy of giving. And we've noticed a big change in that with people not carrying cash in the past years. We've got this great system now, real easy peasy for people to give. And that was really making a difference as well, too.
Fascinating, Trish, to hear about the unique ways that we're implementing technology at the point of payment. Being a technology guy, that fascinates me, and really talks at the core of how many people believe in faith through service, which is really what the Salvation Army stands for. It's their motto. And not only do you help people in need, but you bring them through to the other side. You help them rehabilitate and start new lives. And so in the spirit of that message, to our now bazillion listeners, Trish, can you please provide we're in the times, right? A Christmas message from the Salvation Army.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Salvation Army is a Christian organization, and we celebrate at Christmas the birth of Jesus. But what Christmas is about for everyone in the community, whatever faith they are, whatever background they are, really is all about giving. It's about giving to others. It's about the joy of giving and seeing the joy of that being received. And I think a lot of people feel joy in giving more than receiving. They know they're helping someone. They're doing that goodwill. And I think that's really the season and what it's all about, is that giving to others. We're busy during the year where we've got our busy lives, but at Christmas time, to pause, take a moment to be thankful for what we have, that what we've received, and to give to others. So it's all about the giving spirit. And I just hope everyone in our community feels that nudge, that pull, and that joy that can be received by giving this Christmas season.
Merry Christmas, Trish. Thank you so much. A wonderful message.
Merry Christmas to you, John. Merry Christmas, Rob, and all the very best.
You've just got to love Trish Mamic. She is walking the walk. She doesn't just talk the talk. And I admire her so much and admire the work of the Salvation Army. And been around their work for years. Since I was a kid, we used to go to support some Salvation Army objectives when I was growing up in the Fraser Valley. And I've always admired people who really put their backs into faith through service. And I think it's the right way to go. And we love to bring these kinds of stories forward in the Rumble Room, especially during this Christmas season. It's a great way we can share something important with our fellow man.
Absolutely, Robin. And I also really enjoyed Patricia's message and a little bit into what the Salvation Army does and how it works. And then, along the way, you and I thought, who would be a perfect person to reflect upon some of the spirituality, some of the meaning, some of what Christmas is to all of us, and reflecting on the importance of giving and sharing with others. And who else but our long suffering
friend.
Yeah, suffering, exactly. Longtime friend, Chris Coleman. He's got many hats on. One of them of which you folks might be familiar with is as former Victoria City Councillor. He's been dedicated to the idea of putting things. He is such a community member, giving back, symbol of giving back and helping the community. He has been involved with Santa's Anonymous. He rings the bell for Salvation Army kettles. Let's zoom Chris Coleman in right now.
And here we have Santa. And I don't know, Santa with a dark beard, sort of Santa from Vegas or something. It's good. It's good.
The Santa from Saanich.
Well, they're both Santa. Well, yeah, the Santa from Saanich.
Yuling Santa.
I don't know. You're looking a little bit like something that you'd see on the top of some tower in Afghanistan there. But Santa, it's good. It's good.
Hey, where is John this morning?
I don't know. Where is John?
Oh.
John, can you find Santa? Find John Jurassic for us.
Okay, let me go look for a second. Keep the other Santa busy for me. Clearly,
yeah, I'll
clearly
have
fake Santa.
Now, see, isn't that a nice picture of John? It's a beautiful shot.
Much better.
It was taken about 20 years ago when he was young and handsome still. So, there he is.
Well, young anyway.
Oh.
Well, in fact, I knew Chris when during our UVic days. I thought it was Santa. I'm sorry, but
yes.
I knew Chris when I was thinner. I had hair and somewhat youthful.
Well, that's not a happy Christmas message. Let's start rumbling with Chris Coleman. It's great to have you on the show, Chris. And we thought of who would we want on for Christmas week for this show. And of course, there was a massive list and they all said no. And then we came down to your name and we said, well, Coleman maybe will do it. And of course, here he is. So it all worked out.
It's delightful to be guest 143 on the list.
Yes. Okay. That's a nice number. I do think about you around this time of the year because you often post on social media around your feelings around the holidays. You, of course, come from a long family tradition around Christmas. Your father was a Anglican bishop, and you often reference back to growing up here on the island and the things that matter to you. I saw you with the Salvation Army kettle, and you talk about your long family standing in this community. So as we move through this Christmas week, what's on your mind, Chris?
Well, it's deeply, profoundly important in our family that we recognize Christmas. But for other families, it's also Hanukkah, if you're of the Jewish faith. We've just recently had Diwali, which is both Sikh and Hindi. Solstice comes up for the Wiccan community. In fact, in the States, they celebrate Kwanzaa, which started out of the race riots in Watts in 1965. And it's been adopted by the Black Christian churches in the States because their menorah, they call it a kinara, has 7 candles, and they talk about the principles of unity and community building. And they're all wrapped around with music and light. And when we get to the darker days of winter, we know that there's a condition called SAD, seasonal affect disorder. And when you can bring light and music to people, people feel better. So I'm not sure that the faith matters. It matters to me specifically in one sense, but it's about community building, and we should all be involved in that.
It's great of you to include all those faiths, but I mean, sometimes I feel that we, the settler community, the colonist community, are supposed to feel embarrassed about Christmas. I remember years ago in the 1990s when the NDP was in government, they actually took the tree down or didn't put up a Christmas tree in the rotunda. Right. And there was a huge kerfuffle, and they changed their mind on that pretty quickly. And then there was a city councillor not too long ago who was questioning whether we should have Christmas lights in the city. So, there's almost a nervousness amongst our community about celebrating a long-standing tradition, whether you're a Christian or not. Christmas is so much a part of our society.
Well, and you will remember perhaps a brilliant letter to the editor when that particular councillor in Victoria chose to stand up against Christmas lights. There was a letter to the editor in the Times Colonist by Norman Spector, who was the former Canadian ambassador to Israel, saying, "Stop it, this is dumb. Of course, we all love Christmas lights, and they mean different things for different people, but it's about joy." And it's interesting. Jeff Bray from the Downtown Victoria Business Association is doing a Lights in the City program coming up, and they are running it on Christmas night with volunteers because, of course, there are some members of the community who aren't celebrating a Christmas dinner, and they should have an equal opportunity to be involved in the joy of the lights downtown. So, yeah, it's important, but it's important to different people for different reasons.
Chris, so glad to have been a joint Santa with you this morning. There you go. I'm revealing that I was Santa. Okay.
Hey, John's also revealing he knows what a joint is.
Yeah. I certainly do. Chris and I go back to the 70s, man. We were at UVic alumni together, and as I previously mentioned, I looked very different back then. But I've admired, Chris, really have admired your community input, your community opinions as a friend, as a politician, and I know you continue to study events and activities going on around the region, the province, the world. What stands out for you this past year? I mean, oh my gosh, what has happened? Around this region, we've had pandemic, we've had heat waves, floods. Give us some sense of what you think 2021 was all about.
I think the yin and the yang, it's competing values, angst, anger, and worry on the one side, and fabulous examples of individuals stepping up to make a difference on the other side. And they don't balance each other out, unfortunately, because we tend to focus, at least through the media, more on the downside than the upside. But that should be a clarion call to all of us to work harder. There was a wonderful story last week out of the Fraser Valley. A dairy farmer in the Sumas Prairie area had just had their barns flooded out and so on. And a rugby club showed up to help them out. Kudos to the Abbotsford Rugby Club. They not only swept out the whole barn or dug out the whole barn, they ripped up the subflooring, they took out the drywalling, they took out the wet firewood from the basement. That's just community building. And good, I mean, I played rugby against the Abbotsford Rugby Club. They're a bit of a smash mouth team. They don't give anybody any quarter, but once they're off the pitch, they're back doing good stuff, and they deserve a shout out for that. Mm-hmm.
So, I'm appreciating hearing your thoughts about the yin and the yang and the positive and the negative. And, we've had these these trials that we've had to face, the ongoing trial of the pandemic, and then we've had these environmental challenges over this last year that really have highlighted the seriousness, I think, of global warming. For even the most cynical person, pretty hard to avoid thinking about that massive heat wave we had last summer and the heat dome, which is a new term.
Yep.
And then, of course, the atmospheric ocean this winter. We hadn't heard that term before either, but these are all things that have really shaken up our society. And I think it back to there was a movie called, I believe, Starman years ago. And the line I liked about that movie was that as the Starman was getting ready to depart, he said, "You want me to tell you the thing I appreciate the most about human beings?" And the woman said, "Yes." And he said, "I feel that your race is best when things are at their very worst." And I think it sort of plays to what you're saying. It is, I think, what makes people reach for the stars, actually reach beyond themselves, is if we're faced with crises. And we've certainly had our fair share.
And I think you're right. I think one of the upsides of social media is that it allows lots of people to share good stories. One of the downsides is it can be used by people with a different perspective to magnify the negative. And so you always are going to have this contrast that goes on, and it's up to us. Of most people, I think, are hopeful, but you get inundated by bad stories and you begin, it starts with self-doubt. And I'm now fearful about change. We don't like to change very much as a species, I don't think. So we find other words. We call it evolution. We call it different things, but it's change. And that worries us. And the more you get worried, the less you focus on doing upbeat things. And I think that's one of the reasons we're seeing so many friends relishing getting together for dinner or actually meeting in person in small numbers still. But those things become critically important, particularly as we're celebrating the festive season. For me, it's Christmas dinner, but whatever it is for you, I hope it's good and it's positive.
Yeah. Chris, so we've spent now a tad bit of time here looking real far back.
Well, you know what they say, if you were alive in the 70s, if you were really alive in the 70s, you don't remember any of it. So
That's right. So, but here we are, real close to the new year, and always considered a rebirth, sort of a restart,
Yep.
kicking off. And what should we be? It's going to be a big political year. There's all kinds of elections, certainly municipally, provincially. There's going to be some activity with political parties. But what are going to be some of the events or activities that you're going to see coming up in 2022? And I might add, are you going to be involved in any of that political activity?
It's a question I've been getting a lot recently.
Mm-hmm.
I will be involved. I'm not sure at what level.
I gave you a little out. I gave you a little out.
Always have an out. Come on, you know that. And it's a very personal decision at the end of the day. My wife, darling Judith, the long-suffering wife that I live with, has just retired. So we've got some other planning things to do as a family. She's just getting used to the retirement thing. It means we have more time to sit and read, which is kind of nice. So we will be involved. I'm a passionate devotee to the principles of good governance. I'm less enthusiastic about the political gamesmanship that go on at all levels. Politics is about division. Governance is about binding together. Politics is a tool you use to get to govern. And we don't take people through that transition very well, I think. And we've seen a lot of it locally, provincially, federally, internationally. We focus more on the dark side, the division side. So I think the things we need to look for is, I'm not sure at any level we have a ballot box question yet. If it were today in this region, I think for most councils, it would be, does the public trust you? More so in some areas. That's not usually a ballot box question. It's usually more defined than that. But at the moment, there's just a lot of people partly because of COVID, partly because of the social media storm that's going on out there, partly because of climate change. People are just angry and they don't trust their leaders. And I think that that's a very difficult one to get beyond. I think it's about educating the public is an unfair comment, but I think it's about explaining the broader picture and letting people say, oh, well, this might be a good candidate then, or that might be a bad candidate.
I think maybe we'll move now towards a Christmas farewell message from Chris Coleman that maybe will be tinged with a little bit of celebration and happiness and joy.
Well, okay. And because you actually started this one differently than you normally do, because you didn't celebrate John's Croatian background, the Croatian sensation.
Well,
and
that's all we usually do is celebrate that. You know, it's
it is fluid throughout the show.
You need to know that there are about 140,000 Croatians in Canada, or 140,000 Canadians who claim Croatian descent. So small number, but they're still a vibrant part of the Canadian stained glass window.
Fabric, yes.
Each part of the stained glass window adds some color and hue. So,
oh, that's fantastic.
I'm welling up here. This is just beautiful.
A small cut of, I looked for a Croatian Christmas song, and I did find All I Want for Christmas Is You by Natalie Dizdar, but it sounded too much like Mariah Carey. So that was the 1984, John, you'll have to help me, Jetska Nam Si Rodeli, which is a Croatian song by a musician named Slabanak.
I see.
You can look it up on the net.
You know, the fascinating thing, not fascinating, but one of the undertones, one of the hidden characteristics of that region is their heavy Catholic faith, and therefore very much celebratory nature of the season around Christmas. And lo and behold, the Baltics have gone through hell and high water over the hundreds of years that they've been fighting and beating each other up, and yet continue to have faith in humanity and the future. So that might be what you were referencing when you were indicating my Croatian heritage, that we have only good things to look forward to, because fundamentally that's where we end up, isn't it? That's
how we basically do things on this show. We try to interpret what you're saying to us, Chris, because we don't actually understand you. I didn't have any idea what you were talking about, but thank you, John. Now I understand what Chris Coleman was trying to say with his Christmas message. So Merry Christmas to you, Chris. Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to both of you. And I hope you and your families have a glorious time. And I don't expect it will change your acerbic style towards me in the future.
Not like
I look forward to it.
How can it? Great to hear from Chris Coleman. And, you know, we'd love to have Chris Coleman back in public life. He would be an excellent voice for us, speaking on civic politics and speaking on other issues as well. Yeah. He's the kind of principled person you'd like to see in office. And on top of that, he's a wonderful guy to tease. So there's lots of reasons that we loved having Chris Coleman on the show. And John, Christmas season, it's really time now to say our final words as we move in through the holidays. And I know that it's a great time for you and your family, Christmas time.
It certainly is. Not only are we celebrating Christmas amongst an expansive family of almost 25 people, it's my son's birthday on Christmas Eve. So these 2 days are pretty special. So certainly a huge Sretan Božić and very Merry Christmas to everyone. Enjoy the holidays, enjoy the holiday season, drive safely. And you know what? We're going to see you in 2022, and we're going to be hitting hard in the Victoria Rumble Room.
Absolutely, John. And we're going to leave now on kind of a happy Christmas note, as we are going to look at a Christmas tree. Actually, it's It's my Christmas tree. We're going to look at ornaments from around the world. Let's zoom that in, and Merry Christmas to all.